For individuals that are looking to like start their own business or clothing line or anything like that, what are some key elements you feel like they need to know about in terms of like on the legal side, like to make sure they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's?
So I approach it, especially for a clothing line, in two ways.
Okay.
I usually so whenever someone comes to meet with me, I'll draw a T-shirt down a sheet of paper. On one side, I'll put the business. On the other side, I'll put the brand. There is some crossover in what you'll need between the two, but you should look at them as two separate entities.
Okay.
Even though it's all housed within one. Because two is not uncommon for your business name and your brand name to be totally different. The most common example is that is a business name, Capri Holdings, which is a holding company. Most people are like, we don't know who Capri Holdings is. That's the company name. But one of their brand names is Michael Kors. Everybody's familiar with that. So that's probably the most common example that I use for the difference between having a business name and a brand name. So in that instance, on the business side, that's when you want to look at getting your paperwork together, your LLCs, your corporations, your tax documents. Because if you're selling anything and making money, you're likely going to be taxed not just on the federal level, but also on the state level.
Okay.
Now, granted, I don't deal with taxes, but I have a friend that's a tax attorney, and I have 3 friends that are CPAs. So I gladly send people to them to make sure tax-wise that they have all of their T's crossed and I's dotted. You know, that also kind of goes hand in hand with your accounting, because you're going to need to eventually open an account, because it's good to keep your funds separate for that purpose as well. Then you go into things like, that's more so on the brand side. So those are like the basics on the business side, any contracts that you'll need. So for a starting clothing company, let's say, if you are looking for a manufacturer, you may want to look at some type of manufacturing agreement that has an NDA clause, because the last thing you want is for like one of these foreign manufacturers to sell your stuff to another company, and you look up and now your dress is on Fashion Nova, which happens to small companies all the time. So getting your contracts in order. If you hire a third party, outside party to come help do graphics or anything for you, you're probably going to need some type of work for hire agreement for them, so that they understand that even though you're creating this graphic, it belongs to our company. So that's what I mean by kind of like getting your contracts and stuff together.
Right.
That's the business side. On the brand side, that's when you want to look at trademarking your name and your logo, or a combination of the two. That's when you want to look at your marketing, like who's your target audience, how do you get to them, what is it that they're looking for, what are they not looking for. Also having the flexibility as a business to follow those trends to make sure that you can have longevity. So that's kind of a SparkNote version of like how I'll approach it when I'm sitting with a brand or a starting brand, just to kind of itemize what we need to do. And kind of it's not going to be like a month process. It's probably going to take a while, but so we can at least start checking stuff off.
Okay. So I want to talk more about the trademark, but also before that, like, when should somebody start taking these type of steps and trying to become a business entity? Like, is this something that they do right off the bat when they think about the idea and like, okay, this is something that I want to start, or do they wait a little bit to see if this is actually going to be something that they could see success from the business that they want to start, or do as soon as you come up with the plan, just go
And I say if you're serious about it, go ahead and do it. I don't believe in wasting money. And so each state, as far as filing fees go, they vary. Texas is one of the most expensive. For an LLC filing, it is $300, $310, and when you include the online processing tax. So I don't believe in just wasting money. Be serious about it. If you're serious about this, if you're starting to put your ducks in a row, if you're already out here looking at printing companies and doing all this research, then absolutely, go ahead and get it started. Some people that I meet with, we often do the LLC first, because one, that's the easiest to do. And then two, I've noticed that once I submit their LLC paperwork back to them with the little seal on it, the congratulations, you are now a legalized business under the state of XYZ, it almost puts a fire under them to where they do everything else, you know? But that is the easiest thing to do. And let's just say you decide that you don't want to do it anymore, just let it expire. because it'll expire after a year if you don't like keep up their like maintenance documents basically. Excuse me. You have to submit like annual reports and all these things to the Secretary of State to let them know, hey, I'm still using my business. This is what I'm using, blah, blah, blah. So if you don't keep that stuff up, they're going to like dissolve your company anyway. So if you don't want to do it, just ignore it and it'll go away. Granted, you'll be out of $310.
That's true.
But it's not like life or death, you know. But I will say be serious about anything before you spend $1 on it, let alone $310. So, yeah.
And then, so in terms of trademarking, when does that come into play, and like what's protected all in when you do trademark?
I love trademark questions. So trademarks protect what they call your brand identifiers, or how a consumer can identify your brand with whatever goods and services that brand offers. That's where trademark protection comes in. So most commonly, that's things like names, that's logos, it could be a slogan, or nowadays they view hashtags almost like a slogan.
Okay.
If you're using it that way. In very rare circumstances, colors, smells, and sounds. You have to kind of be an old, been around for a long time type business to get the last three. But for example, shout out to my sorors, but the ski-wee, that AKA is the sound that we make, it is now a registered trademark.
Okay.
So that's an example of a sound mark. Also, the Christian Louboutin red. That shade of red is a protected trademark. But Christian Louboutin has been around how long? So you kind of have to have what they call acquired distinctiveness. Basically, you've been in business for so long that when people see it, they automatically identify it with your brand. That takes a while. But that's kind of where the protection for like color, sounds, and smells come in. Or a week. Because when you file, so there's two different application types. There's what they call an in-use application. And then there's an intent to use application, which, I mean, they kind of give away what they do. But the intent to use application is just a placeholder. So it'll basically just kind of jumpstart your place in line for the trademark office, so that if anybody does come behind you, let's say, and try to file the same thing, because you beat them to the office, trademarks are often first to file. Okay. It is not even based on originality. It's the first to file type situation. So if you beat somebody, their application will likely be kicked out on the basis of a prior filed application. So that's kind of really the only benefit of an intent to use. It's just a placeholder, because you'll actually end up paying an additional $125 more, well, per class, more than you would like the regular application. So it costs more because you eventually have to submit proof that you're actually using it. Not that you're intending to use it anymore, but that you are actually using it. But to submit that paperwork, they're going to charge you an additional $125+. So it ends up being more expensive, as opposed to if you file an in-use application, because you file all of that and your proof of use at the same time. So for those who are like, well, what is a proof of use, or what's an example of a proof of use? When I file anything for apparel and clothing companies, let's say, it's the tag. So I'll file, like, I'll take a picture, or I have them submit a picture to me of the product with like either the tag that's sewn in the shirt, or the one you pull off that has like the logo or the name on it. And then that's what we submit as the proof of use. Okay. So that's kind of the most common example, because they want, according to the law, it's proof of use in the stream of commerce. So that means some type of transaction, right? In fashion, buy, sell. A tag is the best example of that, because normally it'll have like a barcode with the price or whatever. Or if that's not an option, then it's normally like the website, let's say, that'll have like the brand name at the top, and it'll have like, you know, their products and then the price under the products. I'll send a screenshot of the website. Either two is normally like the best, because it puts a price to a product, the product to the brand name. And that kind of shows, okay, clearly there's some type of buy-sell transaction here, and then, you know, it kind of goes. I don't want to get too technical, but that's kind of again another SparkNote version of kind of what's protected by it, and then like the two distinctions of the two types of applications, and like what that process looks like.
So we touched base on the businesses and like people if they want to do their own clothing line or anything like that. bloggers with their content and stuff, is it like necessary for them to ever take like legal action to try to protect their content and everything like that?
Absolutely. And I've talked about it before on my page. So a few of the easiest ways for bloggers to protect their content, because I'm not sure how much content they push out. So let's just say it's a lot. You may want to look at actually getting it registered maybe once a quarter, which would be 4 times a year. You can take your entries, because I want to say, so for copyrights, each application is $55, and that's period. Trademarks and patents are the ones that start getting really expensive. And for copyrights, you can upload more than one item on one application, and it won't change the price. So I don't know if they just kind of recently changed like how many, but let's just say it's 25, right, per application. I think it's a little bit more than that, but just for the sake of the example. So you can do 25 entries that you've done January, February, March. That's application 1. And come back and do it, for however many, upload it, get your copyright registration in it, boom, one way to protect it. So that's actually filing for the copyright registration. Way 2, for those that have websites, is your terms of use on your website. Just like with any social media website, if you violate their terms of use, what happens? Your account gets suspended or your access gets suspended. Essentially, what a terms of use is what you can and cannot do when you visit a site. So as a blogger, you want to make sure you have a solid terms and use on your website as well, so that if anybody does come and do anything in violation of your content, it's almost like they breached a contract, right? So then you can take certain steps against them for that. Because it's normally like, if you use it, that means you're agreeing to the terms.
Right.
Whether or not they actually agree to it or not, you continue to access my page, that means it's an automatic agree.
For sure.
So that's way 2, terms and use. Way 3 would be the copyright notice, which comes on your website as well, which kind of does the same thing as the terms and use. Everybody sees them. It's at the very bottom of the website. It'll have a copyright symbol, which is the C in the circle. It'll say copyright 2019, all rights reserved.
Right.
What that is putting people on notice that you, the copyright author, have copyright ownership in this content. And these are also free ways, essentially, except for the registration. And the terms and use, you can probably find a template online. Because if you have an attorney drafted, like for me, for example, it's like a contract, so I'm going to charge you by the hour.
Right.
Because it takes forever. But you can find a template, and kind of use that in place. Those are usually the best ways. And then there's something called the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, to where, let's say you find your content on somewhere where it's not supposed to be. You can issue a takedown demand to that site provider, and they have to take it down underneath that law. So those are like the 4 best ways for bloggers to protect their content.
And then worst case scenario with any of this, if like businesses and things like that start up and they don't take these type of legal actions, what can end up happening for?
Exploitation is about the simplest way I can put it, especially if you have good stuff. We all know like originality is almost an endangered species at this point, so people are quicker to find a shortcut than they are to create something themselves. And if you're not protecting your stuff, you may be that shortcut. So I think that's probably the risk that you're taking. And then it may be harder for you to get justice when you don't have these things in place. Now, it's not impossible to get it, but it just may be a lot more difficult for you too.
Sounds perfect to me. Well, Jordan, thank you so much. I know I asked you a whole lot of questions, but individuals that are looking to start your business, clothing line, bloggers, like this is some very valuable information. So definitely, I hope that you were able to learn something. And then in the case you weren't and you want to talk more to Jordan, go ahead and let them know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter primarily are where I'm the most active. And my handles are the same. It's JO, the letter V as in Victor, ANT_GARDE. So that's Jovantgarde. So it's a play off of the fashion term avant-garde, which means out of the box, extraordinary, all stuff. But somebody took avant-garde. So I put the first 2 initials of my name. Jovant is not my name. For people who keep asking, it is Jordan. So you can call me Joe. But yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Twitter. Those are the best ways to contact me. My email is attached to my Instagram, and then I have my website that has all my contact information in the bio of both social media pages, so you can get all that information there.
Perfect. Okay, well, I can't let you go too soon though.
Okay.
We have to play a game.